You were once from Earth. You were going about your day when everything went black. You awoke in a different world. Your mind altered. You found yourself dressed in armor with a sword in your belt. Nearby you found that a backpack had been packed for a journey. A backpack for you. As you wandered this alien world of wilderness, ruins, and glowing stones, you ran and hid from strange humanoids. The reptilian Gokru, the fur-covered Bakru, and others, who inevitably, it seemed, turned aggressive at the very sight of you. Eventually, you found others like you, humans who had also been taken from some place and time in Earth's history and transported through the veil to a world known as Ambian. Not knowing how you got here or who provisioned you, you now join forces with your fellow abductees, fighting for survival and hoping against hope to find a way home. Welcome to the world of swords and stones. Back to Dragon Dreams. I'm Ivan, and today I'm going to be reviewing a rules-lite OSR called Swords and Stones by Tim Posynick. So now, Tim did contact me, he's a viewer of the channel, and asked me to do this. I'm not being paid, however, so this is going to be an honest review. Let's jump in. So, Swords in Stones is a rules-lite OSR, and it reminds me a lot of Knave, and I'm going to go into the rules in a second, but what really pops for me in this, which is actually why I joined Tim's game, I actually gamed with him last Friday and planning to game with him again tomorrow, is the setting, which is this really weird, eerie, alien setting called Ambian. And it's not your normal Tolkien-esque fantasy, and it's also definitely not the sword and sorcery kind of Conan kind of a thing. It's something very unique. It feels to me a lot more like science fantasy, a lot more like an alien world. Maybe it reminds me a little tiny bit of some of the adventure games by Cyan, the computer games, like the Myst series. But more specifically, it actually, there's a game they made called Abduction that it reminds me a lot of. So let me go through some of the races here. Now, these are not races that players can play. You're always a human that came from Earth. And what's really eerie and kind of scary about this is you don't know anybody's language. So you have the Arufu, who are kind of elfish. There's the Dakru, who are kind of orc-like. Okay. There are the Bakru. These guys are kind of like these big, hairy guys. They're kind of a little bit reminiscent of bugbears. But these comparisons are not really how they really are. They're really, really alien compared to these fantasy tropes, okay? So the Bakru are like these kind of bugbearish guys, and I think the ones that you meet in the flesh are kind of primitive, but we met these, we don't know whether they're holograms or ghosts or something else in the last game. They were incorporeal, and they were Bakru, but they were all dressed civilized. You know, like, did the Bakru civilization collapse? Are they now in a dark age? What happened to them? There's the Sakru, who are kind of like Sasquatches. There's the Naku, who are like these little goblin-ish guys. There's the Gokru. We fought these guys last Friday. They're these reptilian guys with spears. They're really nasty. And some of these beings will actually enslave humans because humans have the power to turn this mineral called ambite that only exists on Ambian into gold. So there's this area that's basically the Underdark. And there's the Dorufu, who are kind of like drow-like. There's the Mokru, who are a little bit trollish. There are these kind of dwarf-like guys called the Chizaru, but they look really different from dwarves. I don't think that they're meant to be exactly dwarves. There's the Darmundu and the Torufu. The Torufu are these cat people. And there's this place called the Forbidden Zone to the east, which you're not allowed to go in. But everybody warns you against going there. But there's, it's going to happen, right? Like, the campaign's inevitably going in that direction. So, and then there are these weird stones you can pick up that glow different colors. So there's spell stones, there's healing stones, there's wonder stones, which have kind of a hodgepodge of different powers, like finding secret doors, making illusions, things like that. There is possession stones, you can possess people. Tracking stones, which give you kind of like ranger abilities to track people and things like that. So it's this weird, magical, science fantasy world. So the setting is very much a setting of survival. It's a setting of trying to figure out what's going on, what's the mystery here. And it's a setting where I assume there's a concept that, can we get home in some way? Let me tell you how to make a character in SNS. So it has the main 6 ability scores, like you always get. And the twist is that you roll 1d6 for each of them and assign as you like. The scores are from 1 to 6, obviously, and they actually are the mods. Okay? You do that, you get 10 hit points at first level, 6 hit points each level thereafter, which may sound generous, but let me tell you, I wanted every single one of those hit points when I actually got into Tim's game. It's a dangerous, deadly game. You roll like height and weight and physique, or you can if you want. It's very much in the spirit of Knave, where you kind of have all these tables to roll your hair color and skin consistency and things like that. Then the next main thing you do is get your equipment. Your backpack, as I've said, is like been packed for you. It's just laying there when you get to Ambian. And it has 9 items, 9 item slots filled. You get 20 item slots in all. 4 of those are torches, and like 12 of them are door spikes. So it's kind of like items of the same type can be bundled according to a certain number. So like 4 torches goes to a slot, 12 door spikes goes to a slot, etc. You also roll for, roll a random d6 to get a random set of, I think it's like about 4 or 5 additional items. You roll for armor. You roll for twice for your weapons, which could be 2 melee weapons or 2 ranged weapons. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So let me go from here to the ability scores, because this is a very ability score driven game. There's no classes. So strength modifies to hit with melee, and I think thrown as well. I do not believe that it modifies your damage, however. Okay. Intelligence modifies your ability to use spell stones and most of the magical stones. So if you want a magic type character, you need high intelligence. Wisdom modifies your ability to use heal stones. So it's a little bit more cleric-like stones. And if you want to play that role in the party, you need a high wisdom. Dexterity modifies your ability to hit, and also, I'd imagine maybe your stealth. And Constitution, as I said, modifies your armor class, which I think is an interesting idea. It does not modify hit points, but it does modify how quickly you heal. And then finally, of course, you have Charisma, which of course is the social one. Your stats are really kind of going to determine what sorts of abilities your character is going to gravitate toward. Okay, so let me go through the rules here. So first up is how reaction checks are done. It's on a d6. So next, let's go through combat. Now, initiative is really interesting, because the way initiative works is you roll a d6. On a 1 to 3, you're on attack, and on 4 to 6, you are on defense. And you can be on attack multiple rounds in a row or on defense multiple rounds in a row. In other words, you don't switch. So if you're on attack, you're not on defense next. There's no like bottom of the round. So then if you're attacking, obviously you make an attack roll. No, that's just straight out of D20 system. You make an attack roll, you try to get, a high number. You add your strength or your dex, depending on what kind of weapon you're using, etc. What's interesting about this, though, is there's also a defense roll. And the defense roll is different from the static armor class. So usually what you're probably used to in a D20 system is an armor class that's like 10 plus mods from various different pieces of armor and shield and stuff like that. In S&S, the defender rolls a D20 and adds the armor class mods to that. So, you could be fighting a guy in plate mail and hit easily because they rolled a low defense, or you could be fighting a guy in no armor at all and have trouble hitting them because they rolled a high defense. So again, more chaos in the combat system than in a more traditional OSR. Okay, damage is very much your traditional thing that you're expecting with damage dice. The difference is that the damage dice are quite different. I was very surprised. Spears actually do more damage than a sword. I don't know what Tim's thought process was, but some of the weapons do different amounts of damage than you're probably used to in D&D or most OSR games. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think there's something to be said, actually, for the logic here that something like a spear would actually do more damage than a sword. But it also means that it's kind of a little bit of an adjustment. Other thing is that as you go up in levels, you add D6s to your damage, which I think is another interesting choice. It means that as you go up, the monsters might have more hit points, but you'll also be doing more damage, so the combat goes faster. And I think when I go to the summary at the end and talk about what I think about this, I think there's some reasons why I think Tim is running it this way. There's various crits you can get. I think the one that stood out to me was for a PC on an attack roll. If you get a natural 20, you automatically kill the guy that you hit. And at first I thought, gosh, that seems pretty quick. Like, what if it's a dragon or something like that? But stay tuned, because I think I also have some thoughts about why Tim might have made it work that way as well. Okay, and that's it for combat. There's also kind of some logistical rules. I mentioned that with encumbrance you have 20 item slots. No, I don't think that includes your weapons and armor, because I think the idea is that you're carrying them, they're not in your pack. But believe me, those 20 slots go quickly. I actually had to get rid of some items when I played. Lighting is actually pretty severe. So I think Tim took the Shadow Dark concept, where you actually time 30 minutes of actual gameplay, and that's how long torches last. He took that and halved it, so it's 15 minutes of game time is how long a torch lasts. Let me summarize and review S&S. The thing that really stands out to me is the setting. I've never seen a setting like this, and I think it's really spooky and exciting, and kind of mysterious, alien, and done well. And I think for some reason Tim just really grabbed me with the whole concept. I really love the coming from Earth concept, because ever since I read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe when I was a kid, I wanted to go through wardrobes, and ever since I saw the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon from the 80s, I was mesmerized by the roller coaster that takes you to the land of Dungeons & Dragons. I know that this is more of like a going through the portal for big kids kind of a thing, because let me tell you, Ambian is not Narnia. But it really, scratches that itch that I've kind of didn't even know that I had, to be the person who kind of comes through the wardrobe, as it were, into another world. That's a really exciting idea as well. Reminds me a lot, as I said, of Myst 1, specifically from Cyan, the computer adventure game, where it starts out where it talks about you falling through the rift and ending up on Mist Island. So the second thing that I'll review is the system and character generation. But let me tell you why I think they're actually particularly right for the setting. Okay, Tim had a lot of different options to choose from, and I think that he was intelligent in choosing options that made sense for his setting. And I think he should get extra points for doing that. So this being an exploration setting, a setting that's mysterious and alien, a setting that's about survival and maybe trying to get home, or maybe you'll stay there forever, I don't know. I think it fits that setting to, first of all, make combat really lethal and chaotic, so that one way to make combat dangerous is to make it chaotic. So what that does is it gives you this sense of a fear factor where you're exploring a dangerous world trying not to die, which is a very different activity than being heroes on an epic quest trying to fight the evil Dark Lord that's trying to take over the world or whatever. And it also, I think it's the right move to have a classless system, because if you're just ordinary people who came from Earth, what really matters is how smart you are, how strong you are, how dexterous you are, etc., right? And those, you have to kind of rely on your own personal strengths in order to succeed. Furthermore, the encumbrance and the lighting rules, I think, really make things exciting in terms of being an exploration game and a game that's like high pressure, so that there's this really kind of haunting sense where every 15 minutes a torch is going to go out and you really have to make sure your lighting is good. You're worried about, are there monsters in the next room? We don't want to get in a fight with them because fighting is dangerous. You're worried about how much you can take, so you can only put so much in your pack, and you have to juggle that, see which items are really important to you. Those are the things that I think a survival game is really about. It's really a logistics game more than a tactical game. So all in all, I'm going to give this 4 stars out of 5, because I think that Tim did a real nice job in SNS. I think the best part of it, as I've said several times, is the setting. I think it's worth the price of admission just to get the setting. This is really a good value, actually, I think, because Tim only asks basically for the price of like a vanilla latte and a croissant. You can get this game. You get a setting, you get a sample adventure. I didn't describe that in my walkthrough of the rules, but there's a sample adventure included in it. You get some neat random tables for things like dungeon generation, and of course you get the system. I think, final analysis, this is well worth picking up on DriveThruRPG and adding to your bookshelf. So, tell me what you think about all of this. Do you like the game? Are you intrigued by SNS? Also, have you played it? Have you bought it? What do you think about it? And until next time, happy dreaming, everybody.